Okay, this is the training video on how to check the battery voltage monitor PCB. Okay, what I've done is to attach a battery voltage monitor PCB to the desk using some blobs of plasticine. Gives it just a little bit of tackiness to the desk that it doesn't move around, and also provides some insulation. So any wires or anything on the table, so I just push it down. This one is soldered in place, but it could be on a socket. You attach the screen to the board. You then take a 12-volt battery, which you're going to need. You're going to need the heater plate and temperature sensor, which we'll provide. A multimeter, a bench power supply, and the rare earth magnets, the very strong magnets. Okay, now the procedure goes, we need to check several things. The first thing we're going to check is the fact that the board powers up. So we take our battery, 2 probes. Now these are crocodile clips that have been squeezed very slightly to make them thin enough to go in the holes. Attach the ground first, attach the 0 volts. It attaches to the circular pin in the center. That's the ground. Poke it through and crimp it in place like that, and if it doesn't go in nicely, turn it around. Be very careful with these, because if they short out the lead acid battery, a lot of current could flow. And then the positive one goes in the one next to it. Plugging it in, the board powers up. Okay, it will go through a splash screen where it will tell you what it is, and 1 second. Then it will start to display the voltage. 1 second. It will display the voltage, the current, the capacity of the battery. We don't need to check that, that's just generated in software. The current temperature, the hot plate temperature, which will happen as soon as we enable the heater. So we'll go through all those tests. Okay, so the first thing first is we need to use the voltmeter to just check that our battery is producing a sensible number. It says 11.95, we'll call it 12 volts, and as long as it's within 0.1 of a volt on here, 12.1 volts, that's good enough. That's a high enough voltage. We will be calibrating that in software later. That should be the sensible voltage on the battery. Currently it says 0.0 amps are flowing into the battery. That's because the battery is not charging. All right. So the way we test that is we have our bench power supply, and on one of the neighbouring pins we have the square box here. That's the red one, goes on there, and we have the circular one next to it is the black one for the bench power supply. Always have to flip it around sometimes. Okay, the click you hear is in fact the bench power supply. It's not turned on, but this one displays the current voltage. It's a Chinese version, so it's not very accurate. If we turn it on, you'll see that current, this is set up to be 15 volts, and it's set up to push out about 5 amps, but it's pushing out about 3 amps until the voltage rises. So if you notice on this display, the voltage rises to 13.8 volts. It's gone up, that's a sensible number. Again, we'll calibrate that. And the current displays plus 3.2 amps, that's flowing into the battery. Don't worry about the absolute values being correct, because we have a calibration routine we'll conduct later. We want it to read a sensible number. So you're pushing 3 amps, close to 3 amps, it's within 25% of that, that's fine. Okay. That has tested the voltage, and that has tested the current. We then have to test the temperature sensor. So the way we do that is to use a heat gun. So if you notice on the next screen, it will display plus 25 Celsius as the temperature. Just use a heat gun, waft some warm air through the board, and you'll notice that the temperature on the next screen will go up. It's now 33 Celsius because we've warmed the board up and it's increasing. So that proves that the temperature sensor is working. Okay, right. So the next one is we have to test the 4 magnet sensors. Now around the board, top left bottom left, top right, bottom right, you'll see U9, 10, 11 and U12. They are magnetic sensors. Now we use the rare earth magnets with the south pole facing down to check that they work. Now you have to hold this quite firmly because the surround of the LCD screen is in fact steel and loves magnets, so it tends to pull it out of your hand as you get close. Right, scanning any magnet sensor will put the unit with a magnet, will put the unit into a menu mode. So if, for example, I bring the magnet close to this sensor over here, move it away, it drops into the menu. And we have three options: setting, config and save. Now to let you know that the magnets are back, let me just take you to the previous screen. OK, option 1 and option 2, or up and down. So to cycle around the menus here, if we scan the magnet sensor over the sensor there, you'll see that the cursor moves to the different menu settings. So that moves in one direction, so that sensor is definitely working. We'll use this sensor here and we'll notice that it'll move in the opposite direction. Okay, so both of those are working. Now we can test that the back is working. We can just goes back out, that's correct, and we can test that this one is working by using that one to take us into the menu. Okay, so we now know that the 4 magnet sensors are working because they all operated when a magnet, the south pole of a magnet, was swiped over the sensor itself. So that's that one done. Okay, next we have to change the heater plate option to be on. So we'll do that in the settings. So you see the settings is flashing, then we have to go OK, that's this one, to go into the settings menu. So you'll see the heat plate is currently off. If we click OK, it will allow us to change the options. You have the off, and then you can change it to on by swiping the top corner and toggling. You can toggle it off again, but we want the heat plate on. And then we click OK, and then we want to go to different menus. We want to change the temperature at which the heat plate turns on. So we'll go to another menu, which is upwards. So the max plate temperature is only plus 10 Celsius at the moment. That's pretty cold, but this is for extreme environments. To be able to test it, we need to move that up to plus 30. And the way we do that is we go OK to go into that menu, and then we'll skip along to the one that we want. Oops. Okay, that's not right. Let's just cycle around. Let's make that plus again. So the way it works is that this sensor here changes what's under the cursor, and this moves along to the next one. It's a very minimal user interface. Move along to the next one, and we can make that 2, 3, and we'll click OK. So that will make this heat up to 30 Celsius. Okay, so max plate temperature. Then we need to go on to the next one, which is the threshold temperature. This is the temperature at which the plate turns on. Now, unfortunately, we have to get it down to -2, so we need to change that. So let's go into that menu, and if we change it to a large number, it means if it's below a very large number, then it will turn on. And all we have to do is just put a 1 in the front. It's 102 Celsius. If it's below that, it'll turn on. When we click OK, something will happen here. It'll say plus 40. And the reason for that is that's the maximum temperature the system has, so it just changes it to obviously mean the maximum. Right, now we've done that, we can go back out of the menus. Oops. And you'll notice that there's a little star appear here. It's because the hot plate temperature, the temperature is below the threshold temperature, and the hot plate is now heating up. So if you put your hand on the hot plate, you'll notice it's slightly warm. It will get up to 30 degrees Celsius as measured by this temperature sensor. And you'll also notice that we have this new HP temperature, and you'll notice that the little star will go on and off as the temperature does a hysteresis. It's gone a little bit over, and then so it's turned off, but when it drops back below 30 Celsius, it will turn back on again. To wait for these to cycle around. Accelerometer values are shown every now and again and they are just digitized values, so we don't need to worry about that. As long as they're around the 300 to 400 mark, that'll be fine. So you see on the next screen that we will have the hot plate temperature is currently 30 Celsius. It's just below 30. It will still toggle on and off. So that proves that the hot plate is working. And that actually concludes everything we need to test to make sure that all the sensors are working, the current sensors are working, and the unit is in fact ready for production. That's it. Thank you very much.